Professor Cadney's here, and I am going to continue to show you the importance of two-column notes and how to take them. Okay, so these again are really important when you want to write a summary of an article. And a summary is just a collection of the overall main ideas of an article. Okay, that's it. A summary is not engaging with any of the specifics in an article, but really just with the overall main ideas. Remember how I told you the ability to know the difference between main ideas and details was one of the most important things you'd learn? Well, here's one of the reasons why. You need it when you are going to write a summary. So, to take your two-column notes about disconnected urbanism, just to recap what we talked about, and that was that we highlighted everything that was a main idea in yellow and then everything that was a detail in blue in the article Disconnected Urbanism. And then what I've done over here is to type out the main ideas on the left column and the supporting details on the right. So the first main idea is cell phones and the uniqueness of place do not mix. That came from the first sentence of the first paragraph. There's a connection between the idea of place and the reality of cellular telephones. It's not encouraging. So you'll notice that I put that overall general point in my own words. And then I put the details that came in that paragraph, what we highlighted in blue. So you can't really be in Paris when you're in Paris because of cell phones. You can't be there with the lampposts and the kiosks. You see how I'm noting the details that are really specific? A lamppost, you can visualize that. A kiosk, you can visualize that. And that's really supporting his point that cell phones and place don't mix. If you're thinking about your own essay writing and you're like, gee, I'm never able to expand when I'm writing my essays. You might be a person who's like all about the main ideas, right? But you notice how he is making up specifics for his main ideas, right? Like he's like, for example, the kiosks in Paris, right? He's creating visuals for you in his essay that are helping to expand his essay too, as a side note. But in any case, what's important to know is that the main idea of the paragraph is general, okay? And the supporting details are specific. And each paragraph contains both one main idea and then some supporting details for that main idea. Okay. The next one is we are disconnected from place by our cell phones, and it's not because places look too much the same. So remember, that's when he was talking about monoculture. He's saying that we are disconnected from wherever we're standing, not because the places are starting to look all the same, but because we ourselves are distracted by our cell phones. Okay, so to support that main idea, I wrote down places do not have the all-consuming effect that they used to. Notice that since I used a little bit of his language, I put quotation marks around it so I didn't confuse myself. And then he says, we get frustrated when we can't send an email these days, right? Another example of how we are distracted and impatient because of our cell phones, okay? As we continue, the main idea of the next paragraph is that cell phones are intrusive. And he gives an example of a book called Here But Not Here. And since this is a book title, I want to make sure that I put it in italics, okay? Here But Not Here. And another example he uses is that people always have their phones with them, okay? His next point is that cities used to be a melting pot, but now they're not. And then you have the detail for that. So I'm going to upload this whole document with the main ideas and then the supporting details. And what your job is going to be will be to write a summary of this article, okay? And you're not going to be doing that until next week, but I am going to show you how to write a summary, okay? And then I'll also put this video back in the next week so that you can see how to write a summary there as well. So if you're watching this for the second time, good for you. It will help you to write your summary. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down, and so like I said, a summary is just a collection of the overall main ideas of a piece. So to write a summary, it's really easy if you've done two-column notes, okay? And you can look at, we're basically going to do a bunch of this together, and then you can use this as a model for doing your own work. It's totally fine if you want to use the 2-column notes that I have here, right, in making your summary if you'd like. So this is to help you. All right, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to get in 3 really main important points in the first sentence of your summary, which is the author's name, the title of the piece, and the overall main idea of the whole piece. So, according to Paul Goldberger, in his essay, Disconnected Urbanism, let me make that go up so you can see it. Okay. And then the overall main idea is that we are disconnected from place because of our cell phones. And how do I know the overall main idea? Well, it's often contained in the title. We can kind of get that from the disconnected urbanism part and then thinking about some of what he says. Also in the first paragraph, you're usually going to get the overall main idea, okay? And it's also the point that he comes back to most if we're looking at our collection of main ideas. Okay, so we got the author, the essay in quotation marks because it's an essay, and the overall main idea. Author, article title, overall main idea. Then since it's a collection of main ideas, I'm just going to go ahead and type up all the main ideas. I'm ignoring the specific detail column. I'm just putting the main ideas. Okay? And I can even, copy these down here. Okay, cell phones and uniqueness of place do not mix. Oops. And then as we're copying, we can also add some nice transition language. He also states that, right? And then we're going to go ahead and paste that down. We are disconnected from place by our cell phones and not because places look too much the same. Okay. And we can get the next one. And again, we can form a nice transition. We are disconnected because, and then we're going to put our next statement. Cell phones are intrusive, right? And I got very enthusiastic and put a lot of exclamation points, so you don't need to put all of those. Yeah. And then we have cities are not a melting pot. Cities used to be a melting pot, but now they're not because of phones. And I'm going to add because of cell phones. Okay. And then the next part we have is phones are a problem because they can be used without anyone even knowing it. Again, I'm just copying and pasting from my main idea column. And I'll add a little bit of a transition. Surprisingly, phones are a problem because they can be used without anyone even knowing it. Okay. And then the next main idea is a point that he's made before. So you do want to check for that. If that's the case, I would just leave it out, right? Cities aren't shared experiences anymore. He said that in his first paragraph. So we've already mentioned that as an overall main idea. And then his concluding point is that humans themselves are less unique because of phones. So that's a new point that he's making at the end of his essay. Not just that phones are a problem, but that we ourselves are becoming a problem. We ourselves are less unique because of phones. So I'm just going to say that, and perhaps I'll use the word finally as a nice transition word there. So the final thing that I'm going to do is write the page range. We've already said the author's last name. We'll just write the overall page range for the article, which is 80 to 82. I just have the book behind me, so I was looking at it there. 80 to 82. And then we're going to put a period there. Oops. At the very end. Make sure that you double space it as well. So we'll double space, paragraph, and double spacing. Okay? So there we have a nice summary of the article. Okay? And you are going to write a summary of this article as well, using this as a model. All right? So good luck with it. And as always, if you have any questions, please let me know.